2023 had some good movies, and here they are. Hey guys, Comic Relief Crusader here, last video of the year, and just a reminder that, you know what, this year in 2023, we actually had some good movies, and I know a lot of them were flops and didn't make it anywhere as close to what they should have at the box office, but a little bit of a friendly reminder that as we close the year, we've actually had quite a few good movies out there. Now, this is my top 5, and it's purely subjective, so if you think there's one better, leave it in the comment. And I'd like to hear what your top 5 is. But here's my top 5 for 2023. And starting at number 5 is the Super Mario Brothers movie, which came out earlier this year. Now, I was a little skeptical going into this, but then again, I found out that Nintendo was overlooking this movie, none of the woke stuff in it whatsoever, that they didn't want into it. They just wanted a fun movie. And going into this, boy, I was pretty surprised. Since the movie started all the way to the end, it totally met my expectations for a very fun, enjoyable movie. It's a great popcorn movie, albeit it's a little short, but it's got a good sense of humor, a lot of great scenes in it, a lot of laughable moments in it. And, apart from, like I said before, the film being a little too short, it met my expectations. And for somebody at 51 years of age and playing Mario games ever since the beginning, it's fun. It's a really fun movie. I was very pleasantly surprised. Now, I know that some people are taking this movie a little bit too seriously, but you know what? Again, like I said before, it's a fun movie, plain and simple. You will absolutely love this movie. If you're into video games or not, it's essentially what a movie should just be, especially if it's based off of a video game. Just fun, plain old fun. Now, number 4 is Tetris. Now, on paper, a movie about Tetris should not really be as exciting as it sounds. Unless, of course, you were around in the late 80s to remember what the whole big craze was about Tetris, especially on the Game Boy, because I would play that for hours and hours and hours. The film is placed in the backdrop of late 80s at the cusp of the Cold War, and the relations between the US and Russia were, still pretty volatile. And the man wanting to buy the rights of a video game that is viewed as an enemy of the state was seen as capitalism opening the doors to the country. And if you get that, then you can see partially why the downfall of communism in Soviet Russia, took place. Because they saw that, capitalism wasn't all that bad. Now, Taron Egerton gives a pretty strong performance in this movie as a video game designer. And it takes a film that could have come out flat with the subject matter of the film, and it makes it a very engaging story that never really loses its pace throughout the course of the early 2 hours. Tetris basically is an absolute diamond in the rough, so to speak, of a dark pile of, really bland streaming service films out there that really deserves a second chance when you look at it. It's not that bad of a movie. It's actually pretty good. And it makes you want to go out and actually play the game. And on top of that, gives you a very fresh view while you're playing Tetris all over again. It's not a bad movie. That would be my number 4. Now, my number 3 is Oppenheimer. And it's a very, very good film, Oppenheimer. There's only a handful of filmmakers left in Hollywood that inspire actors to really bring their A game. And I know a lot of people don't like Christopher Nolan, but you know what? This is actually one of them with Oppenheimer. It's actually one of the strongest acted films in 2023. And it brings a lot of big name actors, including Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, and a lot of others that actually pour their hearts into this movie. Makes it very captivating, and it's a really impressive feat about this film that even the actors who you wouldn't expect to play great performances to really knock it out of the park. It's a very, very impressive movie, being able to get the absolute best out of these actors in this movie. While it does have a few pacing issues, maybe in the first act, once the wheels get turning, I find that the audiences become really engrossed in the story to the point where they don't even notice that it's basically a 3-hour movie. So that would be my number 3. Now, my number 2 movie would be Sound of Freedom. And if there's any movie this year that constituted quite a rabble-rousing online, it would be this movie. The left attacked this movie so hard, calling basically anybody associated with this, like, QAnon, cronies and stuff like that. But this movie, a movie that was shot in 2018 under Fox and then shelved by Disney after their merger and essentially put on the shelf, Disney not wanting to do it. And you think Disney would want to do it considering they're supposed to be a company that loves children. You think that they would put out this movie about a man, a true story, that goes to save children. They began to smear the credibility of Tim Ballard and his Operation Underground Railroad, which is basically a anti-trafficking organization that has multiple sting operations around the world. They were smearing this movie like Vice News or Slate, questioning the legitimacy of this movie, or trying to, like I mentioned before, trying to connect it to QAnon. And movie theaters would, on purpose, try to screw up this movie, say that there were technical problems, or the sound, we were having sound problems, or they would jack up or cut the air conditioning in it, trying to make this movie so unwatchable for audiences. But it didn't stop it whatsoever. And this movie is the movie that actually beats out Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and even Mission Impossible. So, a lifelong favorite of mine. I would highly recommend go watch Sound of Freedom. Now, my number 1 movie, well, should probably maybe come to no surprise to some people out there, but if anything or anyone would prove that they were top box office, it would be Godzilla Minus One. This movie, coming directly out of Japan, proves that not only is this big guy king of the monsters, but I would even go as far to say that this was like king of the box office of this year. My wife and I went to go see it, and this was phenomenal. This was like old-timey Godzilla brought into 2023 of this year. It's one of the best monster movies to come out probably in the last decade. But due to the ability to make the audience care about its human characters, it's done brilliantly, this movie. It's basically a redemption story of a man consumed by cowardice in World War II, a man struggling to live with the guilt of a failed mission, and basically given the second opportunity to become a hero to basically stop Godzilla trashing Japan, basically. It's a very nice throwback to the early days of Godzilla, a monstrous beast that only cares about killing and destroying everything in its sight. And for those that grew up in the age of Godzilla, where it's nothing more than basically cheesy costumes and a low-budget thriller, you will be impressed by this movie. It was produced for less than $15 million in Japan, and a far cry from the near $200 million budgets that we see from American productions over the last couple of years. But the one thing that can't be denied is Godzilla Minus One is an absolute win for Godzilla fans out there. Great pacing. It's a great emotional story, and boy, it's one that really stomps on everything out there in movies today. That's all I got to say about that. So, you guys out there, what are your top 5 of 2023? I'd be very interested to know. Maybe there's one that I missed, or maybe I should have added maybe some honorable mentions, although I really can't think of any. But let me know in the comments, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here, I would greatly enjoy it. Maybe leave a tip, that would be nice. But as for me, last video of 2023, this is the Comic Relief Crusader, and I'll catch you next year. See ya.